Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session DS26, community-based approach to management of resources, natural resources in MPAs. So I don't think we need to emphasize the logistics too much, but please represent your represent your name before you asking questions. If you are online, please mute your microphone when you do not speak, and you can raise your hand in the menu. And you can also comment and ask your questions if you are participating online in the Zoom chat box. So community-based approaches to MPA governance for natural resource management. Right now, the topic that we are going to discuss. I am both contributor and also the moderator of the session. My name is Zafer KIZILKAYA from Mediterranean Conservation Society in Turkey. So when we are talking about natural resource management, just please, I would like to remind you, these are only the natural resources we are talking about. This is plants, these are animals, these are water. So not these are minerals, not the other subject matters that included in this natural resource management issue today. And repertoire just changed from Marie to Adrian. And let's talk about natural resource management and natural resources in MPAs. Marine resources are considered as a common property in all over the world. That's the biggest problem for everybody depending on the marine natural resources, because this makes, if it is common property, the management is always a serious issue. And before, the marine protected areas or the attention or approaches to coastal areas were not so popular. This was not a big issue. Nobody has been monitoring the natural resource management or natural resource take within MPAs or wherever the coastal areas. But once every coastal area in the world becomes so important, so every single fish started to count. So in this case, we need to cooperate and support local stakeholder community. Usually, the management of natural resources in and around the MPA are in the hands of central governments. And these are so much centralized that the government bodies are too far from the ocean or the coastal areas, had all the rules and all the management issues without the needs of local stakeholders, or just overlook their needs or unaware of the problems. So this was one of the biggest issue where, in my MPA Gökova Bay, but once this fully protected areas, then all the other highly protected areas was established. And we promised certain things to the local community, that we promised them, we are going to put you on the same table with the highest rank rulers, and you can tell all your need, all your demand, or what is wrong in the law, what is wrong in the management. So it was a kind of a difficult approach at the beginning, because the problem was not the local stakeholders, but the problem is the higher level government people or rule makers. At the beginning, it was a bit awkward for them to sit around the table with the local fishermen. But all of a sudden, the problems are on the needs from the bottom to the top, just from person to person. And it works so well. They listen, and these people tell their needs, tell their stories, and what is wrong and what is right. And also the natural resource management is so dynamic issue. 5 years ago in Gökova Bay, we are talking about one invasive species of fish, Randall sea bream, Nemopteris randalli. It was the backbone of small scale fisheries, almost 45% of the catch. But right now it has totally changed. Now we have the lionfish. Right now, lionfish is the 45% of the catch in the area. So this is kind of dynamic thing. And then comes the pufferfish, Lagocephalus scleratus. And it's a big nuisance for all kinds of fisheries, from small scale to industrial. So, but the government is so slow to react all the measures that to be taken, like bounty program, like other supports to small scale fisheries for their, fishing gear damages. So we need to bring the government for more proactive, listening the problems and needs from more closer distance on the sea, just on the coast. So that's why community-based management is involved, bringing all those stakeholders totally depending on those natural resources, right? These are not the recreational fishers. These are not the people going for, amateur purposes. These are the people really depending on those resources, and they have been doing this for ages or generations, and that's why we need to include them in positioning them, the local communities, as a key stakeholder in biodiversity conservation, because they are the first hand we can get the information on many critical endangered species, from sharks to whales to dolphins to monk seals. So that's why they should be in the biodiversity conservation and fisheries management activities, closing the loop between the government and the bottom level. In our case, all rangers are pre-fishers who voluntarily quit fishing, becoming a ranger, or still doing some fishing activities. Some of them are part-time. So they all know the illegal activity resources, people, where they are coming, what time of the day illegal fishing is active in which side of the bay. So they are part of the solution now. Our rangers are right now all the fishers. So they're on the table, at least on the enforcement part, and the others on the communication with the government. So let's take a look at the roadmap strategic objective. Objective number 1, further develop Mediterranean MPA policy and governance structures to be equitable, integrated with other sectors, and responsive to local MPA conditions. So relevant recommendations, 1.5, empower MPA managers through legal and other mechanisms to apply a decentralized governance system that features participatory process and co-management approaches and be more responsive to local conditions. There is no such kind of one recipe that we can tell and fits all the Mediterranean countries, because politics are all different. So in certain centralized governance system, they are untouchable. They don't want to be the part of the solution. In that cases, probably the local government system, municipalities, mayorships could replace the central government system for quickly, approaching responsive to local communities and local conditions. So, for Western Mediterranean, northern countries and Eastern or Southern countries, these are all different things. But at least we can recommend how they can approach to response to the local conditions, because the government structures are all different. I also added 2 more recommendations. One is from Objective 3, ensure MPA management structures are effective and well coordinated across government and stakeholders to improve knowledge and ensure proper management of MPAs. And within this objective, the recommendation is promote and implement initiatives to strengthen MPA and stakeholders engagement, including fishers and local communities, to improve knowledge via citizen science, facilitate bottom-up management, and increase stakeholder acceptance and compliance. This is really important. This is one of the first recommendations really mentioned fishers and local communities. And in certain part of the management issues, in co-management activities, you need to increase the capacity of the local communities. We cannot expect all fishers can be really talkative or aware or in the capacity of telling the needs and problems directly to the higher level management stakeholders. For examples, think about the pesca tourism. Now we are legitimized this in Turkey, and we already given the rights couple of fishers. Oh, sorry, thank you. In the Gökova Bay, but they cannot promote the tour by themselves. They don't know how to promote the tour, how to market, how to sell the tour. So the boats are there. We paid so much money to renovate the boats, and there is no tourist coming for going out with them because they cannot sell, they cannot market. So that means we need to help them to increase their capacity. So this is one of the livelihood activities. And another recommendation, this is a cross-cutting recommendation, support networking of MPA managers and other stakeholders at regional, sub-regional, and national levels, and on key topics to enable scaling up good practices, sharing of experience, mutual understanding, and to reestablish permanent connections between MPA stakeholders at all levels, and bring the voice from the field into decision-making process, connect with the rest of the world to amplify the impact. So the interesting thing is just between the east and west of Turkish coast, the seawater temperature is changing a lot. In the very eastern part, just in the June, the surface temperature reaches 29. And in Gökova Bay, surface temperature reaches 29 around August. So the spawning of the grouper species are just changing from in 600 kilometers. But there's only one regulation about catching groupers. And there's a seasonal closure from June to September. And this doesn't fit at all for Gökova, but perfectly fits for the eastern part. And since this community-based management system now is working, we invited the managers from Ankara, and the local community told them, okay, this is different here because of the water temperature groupers are spawning from this time to this time, but in the eastern part, this time to this time. So thanks to that connection and communication, right now, there are two different items in the grouper fisheries management list. One for much eastern part of Turkey, and the other is much western part of Turkey. So this is impossible that those local people can reach those rule makers and their voice could be heard. So there are so many other issues waiting to be solved, I believe. So that's why this is a kind of beginning. And as the recommendation 6.1 says, connect with the rest of the world to amplify the impact, just the scaling up the good practices. So that may work. So this is, these are living in the sea, these are seeing the change, these are seeing the climate change impact, invasive species, all other issues. So they are the first one to notice that. So we have to somehow channelize their voices to the higher level table. Today we have two presentations and case studies. One of them is from Lebanon, community-based marine conservation, a case study of Hima Anfe, Lebanon, Alice BAGHDADI, Society for Protection of Nature in Lebanon, SPNL. And the second one, creation and governance of MPA in Senegal. Am I right, Mamadou? Yes, great. So Mamadou SIDIBE from Senegal. And I am just inviting Alice for the first presentation. Is the presentation coming? Okay.
Hello, so this is Alice Baghdadi. I'm the head of organizational development at SPNL. Today, I'm going to be presenting a living example of a decentralized governance system we call the HEMA. But before we dwell into that, I'd like to give some background about the organization that has started it all. So this is SPNL, the Society for Protection of Nature in Lebanon. This is one of the oldest environmental NGOs in the country. It has been established by founders, among them our Director General Asad Serhal, who were super motivated about the birds and biodiversity of Lebanon at war times, where nobody thought this could be a priority, and has supported every initiative to protect the fragile natural system of Lebanon. As BirdLife International partner, we consider birds as entry point to conserving the wider natural resources because they act as indicators to the ecosystem status and health. Besides our work to stop the illegal killing of birds through promoting hunting management across the country, we have actually initiated with state actors like the Ministry of Environment, the first 3 protected areas projects of Lebanon. This is where the whole story started. From our long experience in the advocacy and the implementation of protected areas across the country, we have came to an understanding that centralized approaches to conservation cannot solely achieve conservation objectives, and that we some sort need a system that runs alongside and complements the state protected areas, that is more bottom up, that is more participatory, that's inclusive of the local needs, to be able to achieve such objectives. At the same time, we came across this HEMA concept by chance, and it was the perfect recipe to achieve conservation objectives in Lebanon. So the HEMA is a 14th century old concept where people of the Arabian Peninsula suffering from harsh climate conditions just like sought the sustainable use of resources before even the notion of sustainability was endorsed in modern times. And for them, it was just a way of life to regulate the use of natural resources and to safeguard the resources for generations to come. What we actually did is that in 2004, we started reimagining this traditional system so that we can use it to protect and conserve valuable landscapes and habitats of Lebanon. And we do this with local communities, with municipalities, with various public and private sector actors. So far, we have 25 HEMAs all across the Lebanese territory. 4 of them are marine HEMAs so far. And we have contributed to achieving the Aishi target 11 because we have 6% coverage of the area and the state protected areas have the 6%. Now we're gonna dwell into our case study. This is HEMA Anfe. It's located on the northern coast of Lebanon, 70 kilometers north to Beirut. It's a very rich site in terms of archaeology, in terms of geology, in terms of nature. And unfortunately, it's facing many threats, including pollution, including mass tourism, and illegal fishing. And this case study relates to recommendation 1.5, which is mainly about decentralized governance system, but also touches on recommendation 3, namely 3.1 and 3.2. So basically, the site of Anfe in old times has always sought responsible or sustainable practices, including salt extraction, including fishing practices. But with time and due to the deteriorating economic conditions and the lack of public support, they shifted to unsustainable practices so that they can sustain their livelihoods somehow. We could see all the mass tourism going on the coast. We could see all the illegal fishing happening. And that was actually what drove youth activists to come to us, to reach out for us, to try to protect the site from all this massive development happening on the coast. So of course, we've done lots of consultations with stakeholders, with the municipality in particular, with the local communities, with the fishermen. And we've done some preliminary assessments to assess the site's eligibility to become a HEMA. And as such, we have declared the site in 2017 as a HEMA by the local administrative authority, which is the municipality, which is elected by local people. And we have also formulated a HEMA committee, which is basically the representative local management body, which overlooks the site and its planning. In 2020, we've got the chance to start the planning process. We've done the management plan with them. We've got training with the blue seats on the business plan. And we actually started fundraising for the site. And we have already got some small projects that fit some of the objectives of the management plan. So some of the key lessons which we learned throughout this site, of course, the tool itself, the resource management tool, which is the HEMA, is in self-enabling condition because it smoothes the process of protecting the site, of all the planning and implementation steps. The significant community engagement, the dedication of people at the site, the community, they worked with us day and night to complete the planning process, and that was really remarkable, and we're lucky to have them on this site that much cooperative. We actually followed a very particular, I'm going to touch on that later, a very particular HEMA management planning and business planning process, and we're intending to replicate this process, to document it and replicate it at other sites. It was certainly easier to fundraise with a management plan and business plan because it shows the donor that you are aware of the plans that you want to implement and you are aware of the costs, and they are like feasible and actionable enough for them to fund. And what we could do better in other sites is that it has been mostly virtual because of the reality that we were passing through, but like the stakeholder engagement tools that we use are much better when they're done face-to-face and not virtual. And something that we also faced is the impatience sometimes of the local community because they are so motivated about the approach. They really want the outcomes. They want to achieve the outcomes. So sometimes they get impatient in the planning process, which takes substantial time and effort. So that was also some of the challenges that we faced. Now, in terms of the actions, this is the recommendation 1.5, which is basically about decentralized governance system. And we have, as SPNL and as a HANFE community, we have implemented much actions that fit into this recommendation. First of all, on the national policy level, okay, this is not working. Okay, sorry. So on the national policy level, we were able, and this is really a historic moment, we're able to have the HEMA, the community-based approach, in the legal framework of the government. So we have the HEMA as fourth category to the categories of the protected areas in Lebanon, next to the reserves, the monuments, the parks. And this is a really historic step in Lebanon and the region. So now it's a formally and legally recognized process. And also, so usually when the site is eligible to become a HEMA, it's declared by the municipality by a decision as such, and this is also approved by the council in the ministry. And this happened in in all of the marine HEMAs that we have in Lebanon, and we intend on having more and more as we go. And of course, to be able to govern the site properly and follow up on all the development of plans and implementation, we need a HEMA committee, which is the management body at the municipality, representing all the stakeholders, which would actually govern the site and continue the process with us. In terms of the second recommendation, which is 3.1, which is about all the planning process. So after the site is declared as HEMA, we usually follow a very much participatory and inclusive process with the local community to develop the management plans. It's full of stakeholder management tools. We assess the site, the situation. We try to put the vision together through like exercises like the rich picture. We try to also like do stakeholder analysis together. We do the problem tree and the objective tree analysis, and we come up with an action plan that sets very smart objectives and clear actions. This was done already in ANFE, and we intend on documenting this process to other sites. We have already done the business planning with Blue Seats. We're done with the business plan, almost done with the business plan of ANFE. And we have actually invented an intermediate step between the management plan and the business plan. which they found very interesting. And we're willing to work on more on documenting this process so that we can also replicate it at the other marine sites of Lebanon. So this is about stakeholder engagement. So when we do the management plans, we don't do them together, and we don't only do them with the local community. We also train the local community on how we develop management plans. So they get a training on how normally we do a management plan before we do it together with them. And this not only enhances their ownership of the plan because they feel more ownership on it, but they also get to more to understand the complexity of the planning process, and they could help not only in the development, but also in the implementation and fundraising for the site. And this was really remarkable and tangible and unfair. Okay. We also have lots of programs that engages the community at a large level on the sites we work on. So example, we have like the children education program, which has some interactive packages with children to raise their awareness on themes that relate to the context of their hema. We also have a program which builds the capacity of the youth. We call them Humat al-Hema, the guardians of the hema, to lead on the management of the hema once they get the proper capacity and skills to do so. And we also embrace citizen science practices a lot. We already do that on the terrestrial level to a very high extent. We're trying to replicate those on the marine sites as well. So we try to train the local community on monitoring, on reporting. We have lots of yes. We have lots of also like in the management plan of AMFI, they have really embraced those practices, and they have came up with lots of ideas about competitions and things to engage the local community. So in the indicators, we can use we have established the HEMA as on the policy level as a community governance system. We can use also the number of marine community-based protected areas and the number of HEMA committees across the HEMA sites. In terms of recommendation 3.1, the indicators could be the number of trainings on management and business plans, the number of management plans, and the number of business plans. And for recommendation 3.1, it could be the number of youth trained, it could be the trainings and certifications provided, and the engaged stakeholders number. Now, because we have this cross-sectoral approach, we need to have lasting ties and long relationships with various stakeholders in the country and beyond. So we have lots of partnerships, especially with the local communities, with the municipalities, with donors who supported us throughout all this journey, namely MAVA and SRT. We also, of course, like intend to have partnerships with the private sector because this site also has much potential because of the salinas that they have and the potential for salt extraction that they could benefit of to ensure sustainable livelihoods. So this is the last idea, really. This is the vision for later. So basically, from the onset of the HEMA, it was made as a flexible tool because it adapts to the needs of the local community, and it could adapt to different needs, and depending on the site, it could adapt to the traditions of the site, to the culture, to the biodiversity of the site, and as such, is a very dynamic and flexible tool that could be replicated across other sites. And because of that, people have started, I mean, the HEMA laid an example of how resource management could be relating to benefits. And stakeholders started approaching us to replicate these benefits across their sites. So like what we, from like proof of concept in initial HEMA, the new site selection is actually driven by communities themselves coming to us saying, we want to replicate these benefits. We want to manage our resources in ways that are compatible with restoring nature. And that's really the success. So without actually the government, the central government interventions, people now the municipalities can go and declare HEMAs on their sites. It's been happening on 4 of the HEMAs so far. I'm talking on the marine level, of course. It happens on 4 of the marine HEMA 4 sites. And we intend to actually increase that to have more coverage across the coast of Lebanon. So now we're talking about a site that is further to the north in Tripoli, and a site that's further to the south in Naoura with the UNIFIL, because they're very much interested and keen on preserving the biodiversity there. Holy, they're not moving. Okay. So the idea is that we see that certainly the HEMA has the potential to So because it's being that demand driven by communities, and because it could cover the coast of Lebanon, we think that it has the ability to help achieve or contribute to achieve effective network of marine protected areas to protect the eastern Mediterranean shore in Lebanon. So this is really our vision, because we see this potential and capacity that the marine HEMA have, because they could be declared by the municipalities without intervention of the central government. And we think that they have this power or potential to cover the gaps toward establishing an effective network of marine protected areas along this eastern Mediterranean shore. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Now I would like to invite Mamadou.
Il y avait la présentation en anglais. Je pense que c'est mieux d'afficher ça. Il y a la présentation en anglais. Non, c'est pas grave. Donc, merci beaucoup. Et je me présente, je suis Mamadou SIDIBE. Je suis le directeur des aires marines communautaires protégées au niveau du Sénégal. Et je remercie quand même les organisateurs de ce forum de nous avoir donné l'opportunité de venir présenter l'expérience sénégalaise au niveau de cette haute sommité. Donc, du forum de Méditerranée. C'est vrai que nous n'appartenons pas à la Méditerranée, mais quand même, on vous remercie de nous avoir vraiment donné cette opportunité. Qu'à cela ne tienne, je vais juste faire juste une présentation concernant le modèle de création des aires marines protégées au niveau du Sénégal. Il faut reconnaître aussi que les aires marines protégées au niveau du Sénégal, c'est vrai, bien avant, le Sénégal s'était activé dans la protection de la biodiversité marine et côtière. Donc, depuis 1969, le Sénégal a créé les parcs nationaux. C'est-à-dire que le Sénégal est parti sur 3 modèles de création. Avec le premier modèle de création, c'était automatiquement le régie. C'est-à-dire que l'État qui intervenait et qui créait les parcs nationaux. C'est-à-dire qu'en 1969, on a créé les parcs nationaux, c'est-à-dire que le parc national de la Basse-Casamance qui est sur la côte. Mais en 1976, nous avons créé 3 parcs aussi nationaux. C'est-à-dire que le delta du Saloum, la langue de Barbarie et les îles de la Madeleine. Tout ça, c'était des créations directement de l'État. C'est ce qu'on appelle la gestion par régie. Et à partir de là, en 2003, lors de le président de la République s'était engagé à la conférence de Durban pour créer 5 aires marines protégées. Et là, ce qu'on avait fait, c'est avec les organismes, donc WWF, qui avaient appuyé pour la création de l'identification et la création de ces 5 aires marines protégées. Donc, ce qui signifie toujours est-il qu'il y avait l'État, il y avait les organisations, les ONG, mais il n'y avait pas encore la communauté à l'intérieur. Et maintenant, qu'est-ce que le Sénégal a fait? À partir de 2010, quand le Sénégal s'est engagé lors de la conférence de Japon sur la création d'aires marines protégées, le Sénégal a créé d'abord la direction des aires marines communautaires protégées. Donc, le terme communautaire envoie au niveau stratégique, parce que c'est extrêmement important. C'est là où on a fait entrer le terme communautaire. C'est-à-dire que sur ces 2 modèles, nous avons vu les limites de ces 2 modèles. Il fallait maintenant aller sur un 3e modèle de création. Ce 3e modèle de création, c'était le terme communautaire. Et c'est pourquoi on a fait entrer directement dans la direction des aires marines communautaires. Sur cette base-là, nous sommes partis sur la base de deux documents. D'abord, le premier document, c'était la stratégie, définir d'abord une stratégie nationale des aires marines protégées au niveau du Sénégal. Donc, qui était basée sur une vision très simple, donc qui était de créer des aires marines protégées cohérentes, mais qui participent non seulement au développement, mais à la conservation, mais au développement des communautés. Surtout, c'était là le terme de développement des communautés est arrivé. Et aussi, appuyer la pêche artisanale. Ça, c'était les deux mots forts qui étaient venus. Mais l'autre mot fort qui est venu dans cette création, c'est l'introduction des us et coutumes des communautés locales. C'est-à-dire que tout ce qu'on devrait faire dans ces aires marines protégées devrait inclure les us et coutumes de ces aires. Et à partir de là, nous avons mis en place ce qu'on appelle le guide méthodologique de gestion, de création et de gestion des aires marines protégées. Et sur cette base-là, depuis lors, l'État ne crée plus les aires marines protégées. Ça, c'était les axes de... Non, comme je vous le disais tout à l'heure. Maintenant, vous avez vu l'évolution. À partir de 2012, on était à 5. Et maintenant, à partir donc 5, qu'on appelle aires marines protégées, on ne parle plus de parc, on parle tout simplement d'aires marines protégées. Et maintenant, on a connu une évolution à partir de là, sur la base des fondements dont je vous ai parlé tout à l'heure pour la création des aires marines protégées. Donc, c'est les populations qui identifient leur zone à partir des questions de conservation auxquelles elles sont confrontées. C'est-à-dire que les populations voient que ici il y a du poisson, ou bien là, c'est juste l'écosystème mangrovien qui est en train de disparaître, et que quand l'écosystème disparaît, automatiquement, mon existence devient un problème. Les populations se disent maintenant, là, nous devrons agir. Et comment agir? On va créer une aire marine protégée. Donc, les villages qui sont autour de la ressource, maintenant, se réunissent. En se réunissant, ils se disent, maintenant, nous avons la volonté de faire ça. Nous allons maintenant demander à la collectivité locale de faire une lettre de saisine directement au ministère de l'Environnement. Et maintenant, les collectivités locales signent, chaque chef de village signe un engagement. Et à partir de cet engagement-là, la collectivité locale dresse une lettre, plus maintenant l'engagement des populations, des collectivités locales, pour envoyer directement au ministère de l'Environnement et du Développement durable. Le ministère de l'Environnement étant saisi, envoie maintenant la direction des aires marines communautaires protégées pour voir avec les populations comment arriver à créer ces aires marines protégées. Et donc, c'est ce modèle-là qu'on est parti jusqu'à ce qu'aujourd'hui, on est à 2,88% de création. Maintenant, la lettre de saisine arrive. Quand automatiquement cette lettre de saisine arrive, on est automatiquement saisi, on descend sur le terrain, on va avec les populations. On fait le diagnostic de terrain avec les populations. Chaque population, donc c'est une discussion. Les populations, on va discuter jusqu'à trouver un consensus sur les limites de l'aire marine protégée. Après avoir trouvé le consensus sur les limites de l'aire marine protégée, on fait la cartographie. La cartographie étant, maintenant, on donne des vocations aux différentes zones. On fait le zonage. À partir de là, on redescend sur le terrain pour faire la présentation de la cartographie directement avec les populations qui l'adoptent. Une fois que ça c'est adopté, automatiquement, on prépare un décret. Donc, qu'on soumet au gouvernement, et le président de la République signe le décret pour créer maintenant l'aire marine protégée. Une fois que l'aire marine protégée est créée, automatiquement, on revient sur le terrain pour faire le plan d'aménagement et de gestion, mais aussi la mise en place des organes de gestion. Donc là, c'est les différents cheminements qui aboutissent à la création des aires marines protégées. Maintenant, il y a l'organisation au sein même de l'aire marine protégée qu'on appelle la gouvernance. Il y a les différentes commissions. Donc, il y a le conseil d'orientation, qui est l'organe suprême, donc, qui est concerné les collectivités locales, l'administration territoriale, la direction des aires marines et les communes. Maintenant, il y a le comité de gestion. C'est ça qui est extrêmement important. Le comité de gestion, c'est l'organe exécutif même de l'aire marine protégée. Le comité de gestion, il est composé des collectivités locales, d'abord des populations. Ces populations qui sont choisies au cours d'une assemblée. C'est au cours d'une assemblée générale qu'on élit le bureau du comité. Et ils sont choisis par élection. Maintenant, il y a ce qu'on appelle le conseil des sages, qui est composé de... Vous avez dit que dès le départ, il y a les villages qui sont concernés. Et chaque village, il y a un sage qui est dans ce village-là. Ils choisissent un sage qui constitue le conseil des sages, qui intervient en cas de conflit ou en cas de discordance d'intérêt dans tel ou tel domaine. À partir de là, il y a ce qu'on appelle le comité, donc le conseil scientifique et technique, ce qu'on appelle le CST, donc qui conseille directement la direction des aires marines communautaires protégées, donc pour toutes les actions de suivi écologique, de suivi bioécologique. Donc, on le fait directement avec le conseil. Maintenant, c'est à partir de ce conseil, les résultats scientifiques tirés, qui nous disent, voilà telle zone, on doit pouvoir protéger telle zone, on doit pouvoir ouvrir telle zone, on doit pouvoir pêcher à telle taille de poisson, on doit pouvoir prendre telle arche à telle taille. Et donc, c'est sur cette base-là que nous demandons maintenant à la population, on discute avec la population pour mettre en place les règles fondamentales de gestion. Ces règles de gestion, maintenant, sont édictées et codifiées. Et donc, automatiquement, le ministre prend un arrêté pour maintenant un arrêté du règlement intérieur de l'aire protégée, donc de l'aire marine protégée. Voilà les différentes organisations au sein desquelles donc, les gens doivent pouvoir se gouverner. Ça, c'est le modèle de gouvernance. C'est là où c'est intéressant. Encore sur ces leçons apprises. Qu'est-ce qu'on a vu? Nous avons vu que la population a la légitimité. Hein? La population a vraiment la légitimité, donc peut faire. Mais la population, cette légitimité a des limites. La limite, c'est quoi? C'est-à-dire que quand on doit pouvoir mettre en œuvre une réglementation, la population ne peut pas mettre en œuvre la réglementation. C'est ça le véritable problème. Et maintenant, qu'est-ce que l'État fait? L'État apporte un plus. Le plus, c'est quoi? C'est la légalité. Donc, aujourd'hui, la légitimité, la force principale de la légitimité, là, c'est la légalité. Donc, l'État intervient automatiquement pour donner cette légalité. En faisant quoi? En envoyant des agents directement sur place qui travaillent directement avec le comité de gestion. Parce que dans le comité de gestion, le conservateur fait partie du comité de gestion. Il n'est pas un élément neutre. Il y a maintenant la commission surveillance. La commission surveillance, tous les surveillants qui font les patrouilles, le font avec les agents, directement. Donc, c'est cette complémentarité entre la légitimité et la légalité qui est mise en œuvre, qui est une leçon donc, apprise au niveau de chez nous. L'autre aspect qui est extrêmement important, c'est la modernisation du système de suivi et de surveillance que nous allons faire, que nous tentons maintenant de mettre en place. Donc, avec un système de back-count, donc qui permettra de centraliser l'ensemble des informations automatiquement au niveau central. Donc, on ne perd pas d'informations. Et là, parce que tout ce qu'on fait, on le fait avec les populations. Elles sont capacitées à ça. Parce que ce qu'on cherche à la longue, c'est de venir, de légitimer, donc avec une formalisation des comités de gestion directement pour la gestion de leur propre aire protégée. Ce n'est plus l'État qui intervient, mais l'État accompagne pour le moment. Parce que dans la constitution sénégalaise, il est stipulé que les ressources naturelles appartiennent à la population. Et donc, il nous faut maintenant favoriser cette appartenance à la population. Donc, pour qu'il y ait, parce que c'est basé sur d'abord, il y a d'abord la transparence qui est extrêmement importante, il y a le professionnalisme, il y a l'action de solidarité et d'équipe, mais il y a aussi l'équité du genre donc, qui est recherchée dans ça, mais la durabilité aussi. Donc, ça, c'est les 6 vraiment valeurs que nous avons mis en œuvre pour arriver à cette situation. Ça, c'est nos indicateurs. Hein. Ce n'est pas les indicateurs de mettre plan, mais c'est juste nos indicateurs, nous. Donc, présentement, dans le cadre de ce que nous sommes en train de faire, c'est donner aux gestionnaires d'AMP les moyens par le biais de mécanismes juridiques, comme je vous l'ai dit tout à l'heure, et autres, d'appliquer un système de gouvernance décentralisé, caractérisé par des processus participatifs et des approches de co-gestion et de mieux répondre aux conditions locales. C'est exactement ça. C'est ça que nous cherchons et c'est ça que nous mettons en œuvre présentement au niveau. Et là, d'ici 2030, nous pensons qu'avec les moyens techniques, donc on va accroître les moyens techniques avec le système de gouvernance locale renforcé et les mécanismes juridiques. Donc, on va renforcer et mettre en place. Parce que présentement, c'est ça qu'il nous faut exactement. Et l'autre, c'est promouvoir et mettre en œuvre des initiatives visant à renforcer les AMP et l'engagement des parties prenantes, y compris les pêcheurs, les communautés locales, afin d'améliorer les connaissances via la science citoyenne. La science citoyenne, qu'est-ce qu'on appelle la science citoyenne? C'est aujourd'hui la pratique. Donc, de ce que les populations sont en train de faire directement. Le pêcheur qui sait que là, c'est juste un rocher qui est là-bas et qui constitue un habitat pour le poisson. Donc, c'est juste telle taille de poisson. Si on le pêche, on va perdre, etc. Donc, c'est favoriser cette science citoyenne directement dans les AMP. Donc, qu'on veut faire actuellement. Donc, c'est des activités visant à renforcer l'adhésion de tout le monde, donc des parties prenantes, de telle sorte que chacun se sent à l'intérieur. Donc, ils ont des justes et coutumes. Ces justes et coutumes, on les intègre directement dans le règlement intérieur. Ça, c'est les institutions partenaires qui nous appuient dans ça. Donc, voilà les institutions partenaires qui nous appuient. Je vous remercie de votre attention. S'il y a des questions, je reste à votre disposition.
Thank you, Mamadou, for this very enthusiastic presentation. Can you come back to the session presentation? Okay, in the meantime, you can think about your questions and you can both ask to Alice and Mamadou different aspects in your mind. Is there anybody?
Thank you, Zafer. Merci beaucoup pour ces deux présentations. You want to speak in English? It's okay? Yeah. Est-ce que au niveau, que ce soit au Liban ou au Sénégal, est-ce que les progrès réalisés par les AMP communautaires mis en place ont été perçus par les communautés locales et est-ce que du coup c'est quelque chose qui les pousse à étendre les périmètres ou les actions de gestion, que ce soit sur les aires protégées communautaires du Liban ou du Sénégal que vous nous avez montré? Est-ce qu'il y a eu des progrès notables et des progrès identifiés et vus par les populations locales?
Okay, Mamadou, let's first.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. So I'll speak in English if it's okay. Yeah. So basically, because as I said, like the local communities touched on the benefits that relates to natural resource management, we are seeing that replicability and scalability of the approach in Lebanon. So stakeholders now, they are approaching us, and municipalities, they are approaching us to actually try to implement the HEMA on their lands or the resources that they want so that they can manage it in a way that is sustainable or that is proper. So the best evidence is that now they're approaching us. In the beginning, we were actually going to them, trying to convince them that this works, that this is good. Let's try to preserve this natural resource that you have, this highly ecological important or biodiversity important site. And now it became more demand driven. They come to us, they seek us to actually implement this on the resources. And I guess this is the best proof that it works. And this is the best proof that they're seeing the benefits among the initial sites so that they want to replicate it on their sites. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup. Je me présente, je m'appelle Jean-Jacques Goussard et je suis coordonnateur du partenariat transatlantique pour la résilience qui est développé dans le cadre du projet européen Ocean Gouvernance. C'est-à-dire qu'on travaille sur l'ensemble du bassin de l'Atlantique et on a un programme national pilote au Sénégal avec la direction des aires communautaires protégées. Donc moi, je ne suis qu'un témoin dans cette question, mais je dois dire que, premièrement, on travaille sur l'ensemble de la façade atlantique de l'Afrique, entre autres. C'est totalement pilote comme expérience sur l'ensemble de la façade atlantique de l'Afrique et peut-être pilote par rapport à ailleurs. Deuxièmement, c'est lié au Sénégal à toute une cohérence politique qui va sur les performances du Sénégal en matière, par exemple, de restauration des mangroves. C'est un des champions mondiaux. Le Sénégal a déposé la motion 030 sur la résilience côtière lors du DBUCC. Ça veut dire que ce n'est pas une initiative isolée. Et le dernier point, pour ne pas être trop long, c'est très intéressant parce que, si vous voulez, l'histoire des aires protégées en Afrique, sur le continent africain, c'est une histoire de spoliation coloniale et ensuite de revanche par les populations qui veulent récupérer ce dont on les a spoliés. Or, dans le cas des aires marines communautaires, et c'est pour ça que c'est intéressant, tout est dirigé par la demande des communautés qui vont chercher l'État pour justement se protéger de spoliations d'ordre privé qui interviennent dans le cadre du développement rapide qui caractérise les pays émergents. Et donc, c'est vraiment intéressant parce que c'est un retournement de situation presque historique. Et en plus, je peux témoigner, pour avoir travaillé avec ces communautés et ces comités de gestion, qu'il y a un grand enthousiasme. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. C'est une très bonne question parce que tout simplement, quand vous regardez sur la carte que je vous ai montré, vous voyez l'évolution des aires marines. Donc, jusqu'en 2012, c'était l'État qui créait. Et l'État n'est arrivé qu'à créer que 5 aires marines protégées. Aujourd'hui, on est à 14 aires marines protégées. Donc, ça, ce n'est pas l'État qui l'a créé. C'est une demande des populations. Donc, vous voyez l'évolution. On était à 1,5 en 2012. On est aujourd'hui à 2,8. Donc, tout ça, c'est sur la demande des populations. Ce n'est pas l'État qui veut, non. Tant qu'il n'y a pas de lettre de saisine, il n'y aura pas de création. Il faut qu'il y ait la lettre de saisine. Automatiquement, nous, on descend pour participer à la création. Donc, c'est juste une complémentarité de l'État dans les initiatives locales.
I have a question to you, Mamadou. Do you have? Yeah. Okay. So when you're talking about the establishing MPAs by the communities in Senegal, right? So how big are they in terms of, average size? And is there any fully protected area where nobody cannot fish? And is there any enforcement within those systems?
Merci beaucoup. Effectivement, la taille de ces aires protégées varie. On va jusqu'à 20 000 à 40 000 pour une superficie en hectare. Pour une superficie en hectare. Et la superficie totale aujourd'hui des aires marines au Sénégal, on est à 458 000 hectares d'aires marines protégées. Ça, c'est deuxième des choses, ce qui est extrêmement important. Le plus souvent, les gens ont basé les aires marines sur la base de la pêche. Ici, au niveau local, ce n'est pas sur la pêche seulement que les aires marines sont basées. Les aires marines sont basées sur la base des difficultés que les populations rencontrent sur leur écosystème. À partir de là, les populations agissent en termes d'écosystème. Nous avons notre mangrove qui est en train de partir et que la mangrove, si ça partait, on n'allait pas avoir de culture de riz parce que la mangrove nous permet de nous défendre contre la salinité. Et c'est ce qui explique, ce qui justifie même la restauration des écosystèmes de mangrove. Nous avons aujourd'hui ici, il y a des prélèvements de sable marin, etc., qui à la longue va nous amener de l'érosion côtière et finalement on va tuer. Et là, on protège. Maintenant, il y a la pêche qui a une infime partie. Parce que tout simplement, on est en train de voir dans les aires marines, quand on fait le jonage, il y a certaines zones qu'on peut permettre aux gens de pêcher. Mais là aussi, cette pêche-là, c'est basé sur un raisonnement scientifique. D'abord, c'est voir la taille de l'espèce qu'il faut pêcher. Mais aussi, c'est de voir quel instrument on va utiliser pour la pêche. Et donc, tout ça, c'est édicté au niveau des règles de gestion et ça fait l'objet d'un consensus.
Thank you, Mamadou. Any more questions in the room? Do we have any online questions? No? Anybody would like to comment or add anything?
Thank you. Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Oriane from Blue Seas, Oriane Petit. Just a question for Ima. So you're working with local population, and on the economic aspect, are you working also with local entrepreneurship within the MPA as a local factor of engagement? Thank you.
Yes, we actually try to support micro enterprises, whether they are whether they're providing products, services, or practices among our sites. We're actually more active with entrepreneurs on the terrestrial side. We've already done a project with MAVA on actually building the business mindset of entrepreneurs that relates to natural resources management and biodiversity conservation. We have just closed that project last month. We're trying to maybe implement the same approach in the marine sites that we have newly established. But yes, we consider those, and we actually have considered already those in the management plan that we have set, and when we try to evaluate some costs and revenues in the business plan, and also in the sustainable financing mechanisms that we're trying to think of and brainstorm about. So we're trying to see this entrepreneurship innovative part of it, and how can we develop it together with the stakeholders at the site or the local community. But this subject is also like very new to us, and we haven't really dwelt into it a lot in Lebanon. So this is really a new way of approach that we're trying to integrate into the community. And maybe sometimes they do some practices or provide some products, but they're not aware of its importance or how it fits into the entrepreneurship world. So we try to spread awareness around this and try to support them in terms of like their products and services, so that it could, be up to this level.
Thank you, Alice. And I have one more comment. Most of the local fishers that we have been working are complaining about the recreational fishing, amateur fishing, and the numbers are getting really, fastly increasing. All the amateurs, their capacity is increasing, their gears are getting more technological, their boats and everything is getting more and more, complicated. So at some point, there are places where recreational pressure is way more, stronger than any other thing. And this just giving the pressure on the, small scale fishers, just, stepping back. And they're switching to, half-time restaurant owner as a tourism business. And they're just doing this business as a local fishers only in the winter time. And according to me, it seems that in the next 20 years, if the situation goes like this, if we cannot replenish the fish stocks for those people, the small-scale fisheries, especially in the eastern part of Mediterranean, in many places, is going to be extinct. It's going to be only a kind of, winter business. So in this respect, if we are talking about the natural resource management by local communities, do we have to give them a kind of right to fish certain places, but not the others? Is it possible? Can we put it into the recommendations while empowering the local community? And while we hear that their major problem are the pressure coming from amateur fishing or recreational fishing, how can we regulate the recreational fishing in their fishing grounds? Because if we are going to give them to, tell their opinion or hear their voices, the majority of the thing that we are going to hear is this. Can we stop recreational fishers in their fishing grounds? Can we do that? Or can we regulate this somehow? Shall we? Anybody would like to comment on that?
Thanks. I'm Lorenzo Merotto from Marine Protected Area of Portofino. In our case, this morning I did a speech about the involvement of artisanal fishermen. And we don't have so much artisanal fishermen. We have maybe 10 really active on a total of 20. They are all old, and the youngest are more or less the most collaborative and do another activity, for example, fishing tourism. But with them there is a dialogue. With recreational fishermen, no. And the artisanal fishermen have the right to fish because they live on the territory. The recreational fishermen also, but they have to ask every year an authorization on the different types of fishing. They can use different kind, so with different fees, and we have almost 250 recreational fishermen. The problem is that the recreational fishermen are a lot of. They do an impact. We don't see the impact on the fish stock, but we see the impact of their action on the bottoms. And we try to manage and involve them, but it's very, very, very difficult because the artisanal fishermen have a link with the sea. It's his source of subsistence. If the fish and the habitat are destroyed, also his income is destroyed. The fish, and more or less they are poor, or there are also artisanal fishermen rich. The one in Portofino municipality go and rent their home in the summer and do a lot of money. The other are quite poor. The recreational fishermen, not. They spend thousands and thousands of euros in equipment, and so there is this kind of mind that I am rich, I pay to come here, and I can do more or less what I want. The real problem anyway is that in the municipality of Portofino MPA, I think in a lot of MPA around the Mediterranean, the village in the MPA are quite small. They have a huge electoral power. So in our case, in the management body of the MPA, there are the municipalities. And it's more simple to do something against artisanal fishermen or divers that bring on the territory a lot of money than a recreational fishermen that on the territory don't bring a lot of money, but bring votes. Because so I think that in general, in the next year, we have to talk how to not extinguish the artisanal fishermen and how to regulate the recreational. We have rules to manage the recreational fishermen, but they are not enough. And they are most difficult to control. So I don't give a solution, but I give a problem on the field that we try to manage with a not such success.
Labeton from North Cyprus. I think a problem with the recreational fishermen is, as everybody mentioned, and during other talks it have been mentioned a couple of times as well, is coming like fast. One of the things that have been also mentioned was that they have really precise equipment. They can go, they see the fish, they just go, send the bait, they pull it out. At least in north of Cyprus, we see that artisanal fishermen are not that equipped. Maybe one of the controls within these zones can be limiting the gear used. When I say the gear used, trying to make the recreational fishermen less equipped, less technically equipped, which will maybe hopefully then put them off from fishing within those areas, and it will direct them outside the MPAs. So at least you don't say you can't do it fully there, but you limit their will and their ability in it. So in that sense, maybe that can be a reply to you. So thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Personnellement, je pense par expérience que ces aires protégées communautaires sont très importantes parce qu'elles amènent les conservateurs et le personnel de conservation à se confronter réellement aux réalités des populations. Maintenant, lorsqu'on parle de participatory processes and co-management approach, je crois que là, il faut faire attention quelque part dans la mesure où, à chaque fois, on considère que cette approche participative, elle doit venir de l'aire protégée qui ensuite invite les populations à dialoguer, etc., etc. Je crois que, aussi par expérience, la question n'est pas là. La question, c'est de savoir, est-ce que les gestionnaires d'une aire protégée, est-ce que l'aire protégée est reconnue comme un interlocuteur crédible par ceux qui décident les actions de développement et autres. Ça veut dire que cette reconnaissance, on peut l'obtenir lorsque les aires protégées, c'est notre expérience dans le bassin de l'Atlantique, sont capables de délivrer des services aux communautés. Et à ce moment-là, si elles délivrent des services aux communautés, elles deviennent reconnues comme un interlocuteur crédible. Donc la question, en fait, on peut la retourner, elle n'est pas est-ce que les gestionnaires invitent les populations et autres décideurs et les collectivités à dialoguer, mais c'est surtout lorsque les décideurs et les collectivités, par exemple, ont des décisions à prendre, est-ce qu'ils invitent les responsables de la conservation dans leurs réflexions. Et ça, si on retourne la question, on s'aperçoit que très souvent, il y a un vrai challenge pour gagner cette reconnaissance sociale qui, normalement, devrait être due à la conservation. Merci.
Oui, je voulais juste revenir sur l'intervention de mes collègues italiens et de Chypre sur la pêche de loisirs. Je crois qu'il y a quelque chose, moi, qui me choque depuis des années, c'est qu'on entend parler de pêche artisanale, mais quand on parle de pêche récréative, on n'entend pas le mot artisanal. Et effectivement, aujourd'hui, on voit bien qu'elle n'est plus du tout artisanale. Et je me posais la question si effectivement, dans le cadre de ce forum, on ne pourrait pas collectivement définir ce que devrait être la pêche récréative artisanale pour qu'elle soit en adéquation et un peu sur le même pied d'égalité que la pêche professionnelle. Sinon, effectivement, il y aura un gap infini et potentiellement le danger qui va avec.
Thank you. I think we have one online question. Let's get it.
Oui. Oui. Donc, je m'appelle Mustafa Mraha du Maroc. Donc, j'ai suivi avec beaucoup d'intérêt ces interventions concernant la construction ou de bâtir une stratégie sur la base des structures communautaires, donc sur la base du savoir-faire, sur la base des pratiques qui ont fait leurs preuves à travers des décennies, à travers voire des siècles. Mais j'aimerais bien savoir dans quelle mesure ces structures communautaires donc, représentent une véritable représentation de la population. C'est-à-dire, est-ce que toutes les strates de la population ils ont droit de la parole au sein de cette structure communautaire, c'est-à-dire comment les décisions ils sont prises au sein de cette communautaire, de cette structure communautaire. Est-ce qu'il y a véritablement un engagement, une prise de parole de toute la population, pardon, de toute la population, par exemple des femmes, de gens, donc des jeunes, par exemple, est-ce qu'ils peuvent participer à la prise de décision au niveau de cette structure communautaire? Voilà, très rapidement et merci.
Thank you for the question, Mustafa. And let me try to answer that question. That's the reason why we ask all the small-scale fishers being a part of cooperative. they should be organized. So if there is a people of 40 fishers, they have a board, they have a management. So there will be some 1 people or 5 people or 7 people representing all the community behind. So you cannot get the voice of every single person as if we are having a kind of roadmap here. Maybe we are not agreeing all the recommendations, or we would like to add something, or subtract something from the recommendations or strategic objectives. But this is a kind of community we are here, and we are going into the roadmap. The same thing is for the fishing communities. There should be a kind of body representing them, right? When there is time come to hear their voices, that representatives speak on behalf of the people behind. So you cannot listen every single community members at the same time when we are thinking about bringing all the rule makers, other stakeholders for the natural resource management on the same table. We need voices representing the community behind. This is what I think. This is what it should be. Anybody would like to comment on that?
So in our system, we actually establish a HEMA committee that is equally representative of the stakeholders, including the privileged, the underprivileged groups, so especially women. We try to empower women a lot at the local level, whether in decision-making or in the actual implementation during the plan and the activities. And so alongside the HEMA committee, which is the management body, we also have the Humat al-HEMA, which are the youth guardians of the HEMA, who are undergoing capacity building and skills programs so that they can actually also participate in implementation of the plans and monitoring of the plans and citizens-based science. So we have all these kind of maybe structure to be able to make sure that all the voices are heard, everyone is represented, and so that, I mean, all the needs are on the table and they are well addressed and acknowledged.
Thank you. Any more comments, please?
Merci. Je crois que c'est très important ce qu'a dit notre interlocuteur du Maroc, parce qu'effectivement, la limite des approches communautaires, c'est que les communautés ne sont pas homogènes. Ça veut dire que les niveaux de décision, notamment par exemple les assemblées villageoises, laissent assez systématiquement de côté les plus faibles ou les plus pauvres. C'est le cas en Amérique latine avec les populations indigènes, c'est le cas en Afrique avec les populations allochtones. Et malheureusement, ces plus faibles ou ces plus pauvres sont ceux qui malheureusement développent les pratiques les plus destructrices au niveau des ressources naturelles, le charbonnage avec le bois, etc., etc. Et ils n'ont souvent pas voix au chapitre dans les décisions communautaires. Au niveau de la pêche, on a exactement le même cas avec les pêcheurs migrants. Les pêcheurs migrants, ils ne sont pas là le jour de l'Assemblée. Mais donc, ces systèmes de conservation communautaire, une des difficultés, c'est qu'ils servent parfois à éliminer ce qui est allochtone, ce qui est étranger, ou etc., et à renforcer le pouvoir de la notabilité locale. Merci.
Thank you. How are you doing, Adrien? Okay. Any more comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, I think I'm going to close this session, and I would like to thank you individually for joining this session and giving your opinions, and for the presentation, Alice and Mamadou. Thank you.